Welcome FPL managers, my name's FPL Plug and today we've got a great video all about the best wildcard team and the players that we need to be attacking in Game Week 12 and moving forwards. But first, let's see how we got on in Game Week 11, and we actually did quite well with 71 points. We basically halved the rank from above 1 million to just 630k in the world. Thank you very much to all of you who have been patiently waiting for the next video. I have had to miss 2 weeks just due to work and generally life being very busy, but I am trying to get this wildcard video out for you guys, so I really do hope you enjoy. But first, let's have a quick chat about the team in Game Week 11 and why we might be looking to wildcard. And if you haven't hit that wildcard button already, why you may want to or why you may want to hold on to it for a little bit longer. So as you can see here in the team, I had an absolute mare in Game Week 11, even though I got a very good score, because I was on live stream on TikTok. If you don't follow me over on TikTok, FPL Plug, please do go follow me because I'm always live streaming over there before the deadline. But I was basically live streaming and I made a really rookie error. So I made my transfers, I made Palmer to Salah, and I can't remember if I made anyone else. But I was going to, I also brought in Aït-Nouri as well for Fulham's Robinson. But I was going to obviously captain Salah and play Aït-Nouri in this team. But I actually didn't save my changes when I did the pick team tool. So Salah luckily was still in the team but wasn't captain. That was Haaland. And Aït-Nouri didn't even make it onto the pitch, which was really annoying because I made that transfer as a 1 week punt and I didn't even play him for that 1 week. He did get 6 points and Salah did get 14 mega hauls. So luckily I made that switch from Palmer to Salah. However, I wish I would have been able to captain him. But what an absolute legend up there at the top. Fabianski with an absolute monster haul. So 9 points for him and then 11 points for Emil Smith-Rowe, which is absolutely sensational. I'm glad that I kept him in for 1 more week, but we might be seeing him move out of my team this week. And then another monster haul with Cunha getting 12 points. An absolutely ridiculous finish for his goal and also getting an assist there. Haaland scoring early on in his game really got me excited for accidentally putting the captaincy on him, but then he did nothing else. They lost the game and he also got a yellow card, so didn't get any bonus points. And yeah, only got 5 points for my team, which then obviously ended up on 10. But let's now move swiftly on to the part of the video that you've all been waiting for, the wildcard team. So first of all, I'm going to show you from Fantasy Football Hub their AI and best wildcard team that they can basically produce and that has the best stats going forwards in FPL. Obviously taking into account fixtures and also that you can't use your next wildcard until sort of game week 19 and onwards, and you obviously wouldn't want to use it for a little bit longer. So let's take a look at their team and also then compare it to my favourite wildcard team and see what the differences are. So looking at their team here, honestly, there's some areas that I really do not like, and I feel like they can save money in certain areas and use it better in others. So in goal, we've got Muric, so obviously plays for Ipswich, but we've only got Fabianski on the bench. So if Fabianski does get rotated back out for Areola, then we have to play Muric every single week, and he plays in an Ipswich team which I'm pretty sure are the worst defensive team in the whole league. So not going to be keeping any or many, if any, clean sheets. Yes, he'll get you save points, but I feel like for 4.4 million, you can get much better goalkeepers, or for around that price anyway. And then for the players that I actually do really like and probably wouldn't want to tamper with too much is Gabriel, Mo Salah, Palmer, Isak and Cunha. I feel like all of those are very set and forget. You can play all of them every single week. Great FPL assets as well, especially Cole Palmer and Mo Salah. I think Cole Palmer and Isak are going to be absolutely essential going forwards in FPL this year, especially Palmer. His run of fixtures for Chelsea are absolutely ridiculous. But going on to the other players, Anderson I think is fine, 4.3 million. Fulham are a good defence, so absolutely don't hate that one at all. But Gvardiol, Man City's fixtures do get really hard from now on. And Gvardiol, yes, he's been playing amazingly, but Man City's defence looks really, really weak. I'd rather sell him now and then bring him back a little bit later on into the season, maybe on your next wild card, when Man City's fixtures get a little bit better, and we expect Man City to also get a little bit better, especially defensively. And then Kulusevski and Son. Spurs I don't hate. Kulusevski I really don't like as a pick. He plays in that sort of more deeper midfield role. Son, okay, fine, that could definitely be a good shout. And I think Son is a very good FPL asset when he's fit, and also when he fits into the system well. But right now, I'm not sure it's clicking too much for Son, and Kulusevski, like I said, doesn't really have that much FPL potential, in my personal opinion. And then Chris Wood, I can't really hate on it because Chris Wood has been absolutely amazing recently. But I just think there's better forwards out there, which I will go on to explain within my wildcard team in just a second. And then a quick look at the bench. We've got Fabianski, I think the best 4 million goalkeeper, hands down. O'Shea, you'll see in a minute, I think he's the best 4 million defender that you can go for. Just set and forget. If you really, really need him, then you can play him. And then Milenkovic, fine. And then Harry Winks, probably not ideal in that midfield spot. You want a really strong midfield, in my personal opinion, this year in FPL, just because midfielders are getting so many more points than forwards. But overall, I'd rate this wildcard probably about a solid 8 out of 10. Let's have a look at my wildcard team now going into game week 12. Now, as I said earlier, I do live stream on TikTok just before the deadline. So if you do want to see my finished, complete wildcard draft, then do go ahead and follow me over on TikTok, and I will be live streaming with my finished team and I'm answering all of your guys' questions. But for now, this is the team that I'm looking at, but I do have some some question marks around some players that I want your help with in the comments of this video. So starting off with the goalkeeper pairing, I've got Andre Onana and Fabianski. It might surprise you for me to tell you that Onana is actually the highest scoring goalkeeper in the whole of FPL so far. And I think with Amorim coming in, the new manager bounce, and I think Amorim's tactics will shore up Manchester United at the back. Obviously, we are yet to see if that is how it's going to work. But with them keeping a fair amount of clean sheets already, I'd be quite happy to have either a defender or a goalkeeper from Man United, and we'll talk about that sort of rotation in a second. And then the back line, we've got Gabriel, Colwill, O'Shea, as I mentioned before, is the 4 million, Hall and 8 Nori. And I think 3 of those players for me are absolutely nailed onto my team. And that is Gabriel, Hall and 8 Nori. I've had Gabriel from the start, so I have a little bit of value built up in him. And Arsenal's fixtures, you cannot look away from them defensively. Attackingly fine, there might be a few here and there that aren't perfect, but I definitely want Gabriel, and I'm really thinking about doubling up, maybe even just keeping Raya in my team because of Arsenal's defensive fixtures coming up. But yes, they haven't been a perfect defence in terms of clean sheets, so I may not go there. Hall, I think, is an absolutely amazing pick at 4.3 million. Newcastle's fixtures look great going forwards, and Hall's been playing quite a lot and also fairly attackingly. Obviously got that call up for England recently, so hopefully going to be playing quite confidently. And then 8 Nori, I think an essential player in my team and hopefully your team. He did well last week to get a clean sheet against Southampton, but he is such an attacking player. I know everyone says it, but he's basically playing like a winger in that team. I wouldn't want to go without him, and he's got great fixtures going forward, so he's locked into my wildcard team. Now this for me is where the goalkeeper and defender situation sort of comes into light. So we've got Onana in goal that could be swapped out with either Robert Sanchez from Chelsea, although Chelsea fans don't seem to like him, and also he's not a great goalkeeper, so may get subbed out or transferred out in January. Or you go for Verbruggen from Brighton, who have absolutely unbelievable fixtures. He gets save points left, right and centre. And if Brighton do, for any reason, keep a clean sheet, then he's going to have an absolute monster haul on his hands. So you have that rotation, and then you have Levi Colwill, Mazraoui and the Dunk rotation. So you can basically pick any combination of those, except don't have 2, if that makes sense. And I think I'm either leaning towards Colwill and Onana because Chelsea's fixtures are just so good and Colwill is nailed on in that Chelsea team, or I go for Mazraoui, who looks like he could be very good under Amorim if he is playing in that sort of wing-back role and position, which I definitely think he could do. And then swapping out Onana for Verbruggen. That does, however, mean that I wouldn't be taking advantage of Chelsea's fixture run. But if I'm okay with that, I think Verbruggen is an absolutely amazing asset and also a very cheap goalkeeper. And then I can use that money to upgrade elsewhere. So let me know down in the comments which defender and goalkeeper pairing out of those you would go for personally. And then here is where this wildcard draft really comes into its own. Look at that magnificent midfield. We've got Saka, we've got Rodgers, we've got Mbeumo, we've got Salah, and we've also got Palmer. Obviously, the weakest link in there is Rodgers, but Aston Villa's fixtures are actually really fine. And Rodgers has been basically playing as that second striker in the Aston Villa team. So cheap, I've had him all season, so got some good value tied up in him. And also, he's just doing the business at the minute, so I'm happy not to get rid of Rodgers. He's scoring goals, he's getting assists, so he's perfectly fine to be in that team. Saka, however, is the only question mark in my team. If he is injured, he will come out of my team and he'll be replaced with most likely Bruno Fernandes, because he's the only other player that I would maybe want in this team, either Bruno Fernandes or if I wanted to go all the way down to someone like Garnacho. I think both of those are going to be really good in this Manchester United team. But obviously, we don't know how Amorim's going to do. So in my personal opinion, it's a little bit too risky to go for someone like Bruno Fernandes straight away. I'd rather be on someone like Saka, and then if Bruno is playing really, really well under Amorim, then go down to Bruno. The only thing with that is Man United do have two really, really good fixtures in the next two, and then it gets a little bit worse for a little bit. So if you are ballsy enough to just go straight for someone like Bruno Fernandes or Garnacho, I think it could work out absolutely amazingly. But for me, I'm going to stick with the FPL asset that we know does very, very well week in, week out, if he's not injured, in Saka. And then we've got Mbeumo, Salah and Palmer. Mbeumo's been a legend for us so far this season. Yes, he slowed down a bit recently, so he could come out of my team soon if I don't think he's up to that standard that he has been playing at previously and getting into those attacking positions, or whether it's just Wisa that's now getting into all of those positions. If it is, I can then easily move on. And then Salah, absolutely amazing again this season. Every single week he seems to be getting a mega haul, so I can't go without Salah. And Liverpool's fixtures are actually looking quite good going forwards, especially this week against Southampton. He will definitely be getting my captain's armband. And then Cole Palmer, in my opinion, the most essential player you could possibly have. If he's obviously not injured, his fixtures are incredible, and him against bad or worse opposition, he just gets monster haul after monster haul. So Cole Palmer's definitely in my team, and honestly is a shout for a captaincy this week. And then last but not least, we've got the front three. So I've currently got in there Danny Welbeck, Alexander Isak and Cunha. I think Isak, again, is pretty much essential. Newcastle's fixtures are looking really, really strong. And Isak playing really well internationally. Yes, he missed that penalty. I don't think that takes him off penalties whatsoever. He also scored a lot of goals in the international break. So he's on form. Newcastle are looking a much, much better team at the moment. So he's definitely in my team. Cunha, on the other hand, I'm not 100% sold by Cunha, but Wolves' fixtures are amazing and he's just doing the business at the minute. And I believe he's also on penalties, so I think he's a great set and forget in your team for Wolves is a great fixture on. But here is where the questions could get asked and are getting asked again by me. So Brighton's fixtures are too good to ignore in my opinion, especially for an attacker. But the question for me is, do I go for Danny Welbeck or do I go for Joao Pedro? So we're going to talk through the pros and cons, and I actually might show up on screen the stats of both of them compared, and sort of we'll talk about who could be the best FPL asset going forwards. So as you can see on screen here, this is the SofaScore stats of Welbeck versus Joao Pedro. Yes, Joao Pedro hasn't played nearly as many minutes as Welbeck, so we will take that into account a little bit later in this section. But let's just have a look at the raw stats of Welbeck versus Joao Pedro. So Welbeck's played sort of 3 times more minutes than Joao Pedro so far this season. And he also has played a lot more minutes per game when they're actually in the games. However, Joao Pedro has obviously been subbed off because he's been injured quite a few times. And Danny Welbeck has got 6 goals compared to Joao Pedro's 3. And that is from an expected goals of 5 for Welbeck and only 1.36 for Joao Pedro. So Joao Pedro has basically doubled, if not, no, he's actually, he's doubled his expected goals in his actual returns. And Danny Welbeck's only gone 1 goal over his expected returns. So Danny Welbeck's really getting in those dangerous situations, whereas Joao Pedro, when he's playing, may not be getting into quite as many good situations. But then when you do take into account that is only from a very small sample size from Joao Pedro, it's hard to really compare the two like for like. But when you actually look at the data in sort of per 90 stats, so as if they both just played 90 minutes each, it's actually very similar, especially in terms of goal involvements. Joao Pedro actually has 0.1 more goal involvements per 90 than Danny Welbeck. However, Danny Welbeck's goals per 90, or XG, is much higher than Joao Pedro. So if you only focus on the goals, then Danny Welbeck is your man. However, if you're looking at goal involvement, so goals and assists, then Joao Pedro is probably slightly better than Welbeck. And then when you consider penalties as well for Joao Pedro, and also that he's, I think, about 0.4 million cheaper than Welbeck, I can definitely see why people are going for Joao Pedro over Danny Welbeck, and I may well make the switch before the deadline. So again, make sure you check out my TikTok live stream to see if I do swap to Joao Pedro. But I think it's very even between the two. Joao Pedro, for me, might now, talking about it and thinking it over, may be the better option. If you are, if you do need a budget or a more budget striker, then definitely go for Joao Pedro. I wouldn't have any concerns over going Joao Pedro if you need the money. I wouldn't try and get Welbeck in. It's only if you already have the money, you can't really upgrade anywhere else, then I'd maybe think about going for Danny Welbeck. But let me know down in the comments what you think of the sort of debate between Danny Welbeck and Joao Pedro, and also what you thought of my wildcard team. Let me know down in the comments if you would change any of those players, and have a good game week 12.